Welcome back to another MOTOBOB video. You join me again on the XSR900 launch. I've already published my main review, so I'll link to that down in the description. Do give it a watch. But also, I asked people to submit their questions about the bike on my Instagram, so I'm going to go through them now. But before we get started, a massive thanks to Beeline Moto for sponsoring the channel. Now, although the XSR does get a TFT dash on this new model, you don't get any phone integration or turn-by-turn nav. So if you're thinking of buying one, or any other retro for that matter, then Beeline Moto is a great way to add simple navigation prompts without ruining the clean retro aesthetic of your bike. There's a link in the description where you can find out more about it, and again, a massive thanks to Beeline Moto for their support. So on to the first question. How aggressive is the throttle map and the riding mode? So you've got 4 modes, 1 being super sporty, not that much intervention from the rider aids. 4 is much more like a rain mode. Now today on the road, good weather, plenty of warmth in the tarmac and the tires, you know, modes 1 and 2 were perfectly fine. 1 is like a little bit bonkers, it'll power wheelie in second, no problems. 2 just takes the edge off a little bit and makes it a little bit easier to get on with. Very, very fun to ride, but it's nice also to have modes 3 and 4 if you do want to take it out in the rain, or if you're a less experienced rider, perhaps you want to just ease yourself into it. Is it snatchy on and off the throttle at low speeds? No, not really. I wouldn't say that that's a problem that plagues this bike at all. It's not that long ago that I borrowed the Kawasaki Z900RS. That's a direct competitor for this bike, and I did find that on that bike, when you crack the throttle mid-corner, it just kind of lurches forward a bit. This, I found the throttle to be much easier to use, and even in mode 1 where it's really quite aggressive, you know, if you've got good throttle control, it's super smooth, and I'd say it's definitely a strength of this bike. Is it suitable for a beginner? I think that depends on so many things. Probably mainly your temperament. It'd be so easy to get carried away. If you're the sort of person who can resist sticking it in mode 1 and just giving it the beans, if you're happy sort of easing into it and you've got that self-restraint, then I think you could probably get away with it. It's not particularly tall, it's 8-10 mil in the seat height, so that can be reassuring doing low speed stuff because you can easily reach the floor. You could stick it into mode 4 and it's nice and easy to ride. So you could start on this bike. I think I'd probably recommend the XSR900 though. Does it wheelie? Yes. This or the Kawasaki Z900RS. Now, I just talked about that bike a little bit. I will say that this has the better engine for me, the better throttle control. It's got a lot more tech, but the Kawasaki is beautiful to look at. It's got more heritage with its styling, the way it references the Z1, the finish and just the general sort of looks and presence of it. You know, I think it's beautiful. So that's your choice really, the more performant bike, and I think it's a little bit cheaper as well, this, or the Z900RS, which I think, you know, looks more cohesive. I think I'd probably go for this though, just for the thrills. Will there be an SP model? So if you look at the MT-09 with which this bike shares its engine and chassis, you can get that in an SP version, which gives it a bunch of upgrades. I think it's mainly the suspension where you get some Olin stuff. But no, there was absolutely no talk of an SP version of this bike. It's never been available previously, and there was nothing about it in the presentation last night with the Yamaha guys. So I'd say it's a pretty firm no. You could just upgrade the suspension yourself though, I suppose, and that'd make for a heck of a bike. Probably the most common question I received, plenty of people sent this in, so can you change the seat? Because visually it looks a bit weird. It's a little bit lower than the MT-09 by about 25 mil, and also it's pretty firm, so plenty of reasons to want to switch it. But no, there's nothing in the accessories catalog, so no low seat, no high seat, no comfort seat. You can't switch it for the MT-09 seat because it's a different design and different subframe, and so if you wanted to change the way it looks and add a bit of padding, you'd probably have to get it done by a seat customizing company, or wait for something aftermarket to, you know, go on sale. How are the ergonomics for over an hour? Is it too cramped or too canted forward? Now, there are some changes versus the previous gen and versus the MT-09, so it's got lower bars. You can flip the risers though, so that'll give you a little bit of adjustability. The seat sits a little lower, like I said, and then the foot pegs are adjustable between 2 positions. It's in the low positions today. Mainly I found it super comfortable. It's a great bike to ride on the road. We did about 4 hours on the bike, I think, today, and yeah, the position is good. It's just the firmness of the seat, and it's quite narrow, so I did feel a little bit like I was sitting on the edges at times. and it just needs a bit more padding. So I would look at, like I say, adding some more cushion in there. How is passenger comfort? Look, I'm not coming on a press launch to Tuscany to test out a bike like this and just spending half an hour or an hour sat on the back of it. Absolutely no way. So I have no idea what it's like on the back, but it doesn't look super comfortable. It's quite a small seat. You will be sat up a little higher, I think, than the rider, so you might get a bit of wind in the face. It's probably not somewhere that you want to go touring. I think you'd be better off with the Tracer 9, for example, but for short stints it looks decent. And these little flippy out passenger foot pegs are really cool. A bit of a philosophical one here. So what's your take on modern bikes with a retro hint? The XSR has no heritage. Yeah, I can see what they're saying there. I mean, if you look at something like the Triumph Speed Twin, which is, you know, a direct competitor for this bike, it's got the steel cradle frame, it's got the twin shocks, so the architecture of it, the whole design of it, you know, really references Bonnevilles of the past, although obviously it's a lot more capable and performant. This is just an MT-09 effectively. There's not a massive amount different about it apart from the bodywork, so the tech is really up to date. The engine is a thoroughly modern triple, and I suppose my take would be that I think it's nice to have a bit of variety in the segment, and this does offer something a little bit different. You know, it's effectively the MT-09 riding experience with all the good stuff about that, just with slightly different looks. And the MT-09 for me is not a bike that I love looking at, whereas this, I think it's a lot easier on the eye. Now, a couple of extra questions that came in after I shot this. So firstly, does it get a quick shifter? Yes, it does, and it works both up and down, and it really is very good. Super crisp and precise, and it works just as well around town at lower revs as it does when you're riding quicker. The best part is its standard fit, which is pretty impressive for a 10-gram bike. Does it sound as good as it looks? Personally, I think it sounds awesome. Here's a clip from my main review. Bella. It's got the same twin exit exhaust design as the MT-09, so you get equal amounts of sound in either ear, and for a stock system, I reckon it's pretty good. Now, there is an official Akropovich accessory, but honestly, it's mainly for looks. It sticks up at the side for a slightly more 90s vibe. But honestly, having heard it on one of the bikes at the press launch, it really doesn't change the sound that much, probably because of emissions regulations and homologation requirements. And then the price, I think it's around 1,800 quid because it's a full system including the cat, so you've really got to want it for the looks to pay that price. How does it compare to the previous generation? Well, there are gains almost everywhere. It's a little more agile, a little more powerful. You've got the new TFT dash, the 6-axis IMU for lean-sensitive rider aids, and the new ride-by-wire throttle, which is nice and smooth with all those modes. So across the board, it's a bit better to ride, but I think it's just the looks that will be divisive for some people. Personally, I like this new one, but I know that some previous gen owners prefer the looks of their bike. As always, I'd love to know your pick though, down in the comments below. Hope you've enjoyed this Q&A video. Do head over to my Instagram if you don't follow me there already, and next time I review a bike like this, you can submit your questions there. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.